Hey guys, the temperatures here in the DC metro area have started to drop. It's November something, just a few days ago it was like 70 degrees. Right now outside is 22 degrees. It's incredibly cold and I ride year round. You have two options in the winter if your area has got 4 seasons like I do here in DC. You can either winterize your bike or you can ride throughout the winter. And I normally just ride throughout the winter, but in order for that to happen, you're gonna have to gear up. Here are some of the things that you probably need to look into if you're gonna ride year round. One of the great things about having a adventure bike like this is that it's sheltered pretty well from the wind, and wind protection is very important on a motorcycle throughout winter. It's important to have a great windscreen. This one is a Magstad windscreen that you can just move up like this and it gets a lot of the wind deflected off of you. That's pretty important, having something that deflects wind away from you. The shroud here also on this bike helps keeping your legs a little bit warmer. I've even seen guys that have built things to the side to protect your legs even more from the wind. Keeping you sheltered from the wind is very important. Or I highly recommend is heated grips. I have bought some heated grips here. There's 2 different types that I've seen, actually 3. This one is the rubber piece that you can just fit on your existing bike, and then you have a dial here that you can adjust it. You can connect it to the battery and get power from that. There's also these very thin pads that you can put underneath your existing grips and that'll heat up the element. And then there's another heated grip that you can get that I don't like as much, that I do own. There's a company called Oxford. They make these overheated grips that go over your existing grips and they're very bulky, so I don't really like those very much. So that's a very important thing to have because they make riding much more convenient, not just in the winter but in those brisk fall days that still gets like 70 degrees but in the morning are cold. You can just turn on the heated grips and you're just so much more comfortable. Another thing that I think you should look into is getting heated gloves. These are made by Gerbing and they're very thin micro wire, as they call it. But I've had a couple of these sets and Gerbing is not that great of a company anymore. They changed the ownership. It used to be they had a lifetime warranty. So if these electric things were to break, you could return it like 5 years down the line. And I have returned the gloves that I used to have that were much thicker. This one is like a micro wire that runs through it, and then you can see this just kind of powers into your battery. One of the things I've been doing lately is using this suit. It's a first gear one-piece thermal suit. And this one is extremely warm, but it is kind of bulky to wear, but you need something like this. Or you can get different pants and stuff like that, but you should wear layers too. Another thing I really recommend are these. Not a lot of people use these in the DC metro area, but they're extremely popular. They're called hippo hands. They basically go over your handlebars and protect your hands from more wind. These work really well because you can just kind of fit your hand in here and they hold their shape fairly well. On these I did modify them by put a hole because at one point I had a bike that had handlebars that wouldn't fit, but I do have another set that doesn't have the holes. This is probably one of the more important things you can get. This is a Tourmaster heated jacket, and the reason I like this a lot, and I used to have other gear, I used to have Gerbing stuff, but Gerbing, like I said before with the gloves, it's gone down in reliability. And for a guy like me, it's very important for that equipment to be reliable. Just like my motorcycle, the last thing I want is to get stranded somewhere in my commute. So having reliable gear is very important, and I keep gear for a very long time. This is a pretty decent one, and I got this for free. A friend of mine gave it to me. It's a Tourmaster Synergy electric jacket liner. And throughout the jacket, there's all of these wires and stuff, and they heat up. Kind of like a a heated seat in a car would be. And you can see here there's a controller that you can adjust the heat settings. There's 3 settings on it, and this plugs into your bike. When you get this, it comes with the heated wires that plug into the battery. Some bikes are not capable of powering up a lot of electronic stuff, so you have to keep that in mind. But most bikes, even a Ninja 250 that I had for years, I powered up a electric jacket and gloves without any problems. It's only when you start adding the pants, the socks and everything, and maybe some lights on your bike that it starts to draw a lot of power. But most bikes should be able to handle a jacket and gloves very easily. The cool thing about these electric jackets is that you don't have to run different wires to the battery. You just use one wire that plugs into the battery and your controller. And then on the sleeves here, you can tell it's got the plug, and this plugs into your gloves. Another very important thing to have are boots. And I've had these boots for a very long time. I bought them new. They were pretty expensive when I bought them. And I do love how they look. And they're called City Sympatex. I love the high profile because at one point these used to be extremely waterproof. And I like them so much. I've ridden many tours throughout Europe and the United States using them. They're not very good walking boots, but these, you definitely need some boots for the winter because oftentimes you're going to get rained on, and it's going to have snow or whatever. Having something like this will help keep your feet very warm. This is probably my favorite pants to use. They're Alpine Stars, and I don't even know if there's like a type that it is, but they are probably the best pants I've ever gotten for winter. They're this kind of like cloth, but it's very breathable. And on the inside, the insulation, whatever Alpine Stars use for insulation on these pants is incredible. Also, it's got protection in the knees, and you kind of need that. And I also bought this just a little bit bigger so I could fit my jeans or whatever underneath while I was going to work. You're going to need a nice warm jacket. So one of the important things to do while you're riding a motorcycle is to layer. If you just wear your motorcycle jacket and a sweater, it's really going to get pretty cold and very cold fast. So the idea is that you wear multiple layers on your body. Oftentimes I'll wear like a cotton shirt, then I'll double it with another shirt, and then maybe a sweater, and then I'll have something even on top of that, and then I'll have my jacket. This jacket is great. I really like it. It's the Revit brand, and I like that it's just a little bit bigger like this. It goes past your waist. That way you can bundle it up and have your pants on there. So you'll keep nice and warm using the jacket. And then when you couple it with the electric gear, you stay pretty warm throughout the entire ride. They're very important to have a full-size helmet like this. They will just keep your head much warmer throughout the winter. I never understood why people even want to have helmets in summertime, but full helmets are the way to go when you're riding in the winter. You can just close the visor like this and your head is sheltered. And when you couple it with a ski mask like this or balaclava, this gets extremely warm. So guys, those are some tips on riding the winter and keeping nice and warm. If you ride for 2 hours straight, that is kind of pushing it, because normally when you have a short commute that's like less than an hour, that's perfect. This system will work extremely well. I've ridden for like 300 miles in the winter and I don't really recommend it. But if you do have to ride in the winter, I encourage people to ride through the winter, because one of the problems that we have here in the United States specifically is that riders are seasonal riders. So when bikes go in for storage, people basically think that bikers don't exist, And when springtime comes, people go crazy with their motorcycles, and there's a lot of terrible accidents because they're not used to riding anymore and they're very rusty. So riding in the winter is a perfect way to keep your riding skill high throughout the year. It's really come in useful for me throughout the years. I've always commuted in the winter, and it's not as bad as people think, because with the right gear like this, you can absolutely ride throughout the winter no matter what. It just takes a little bit more planning than getting in a car and just driving away. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.